Hello, my name is Eric Putkonen. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm talking about why meditation won't lead to enlightenment. It's a common myth. I've heard it many times. Sometimes, I remember speaking to a guy once. He was a long-time meditator. He regularly meditates at least twice a day for an hour each, so he meditates at a minimum 2 hours a day, often more. He goes regularly on retreats, and these are all-day retreats or all-weekend retreats where you're doing nothing but meditating all weekend. And he's been doing this for years, decades even. And he goes, after 30, 40 years, why haven't I gotten it yet? And this points out to the belief that if I meditate, I'll get enlightenment. And it doesn't work that way. Meditation does not cause enlightenment. It's not a causal relationship. It's not about meditating the right way for long enough. I've said at times, it's almost like when you're trying to fall asleep at night. It's not about being in a dark room long enough that will cause sleep. You don't fall asleep by being in a dark room long enough. So it's not a matter of just meditation. It's meditation does set a more conducive environment, just like, hey, a dark room sets a more conducive environment for falling asleep. So it is easier to fall asleep in a dark room. It's easier to wake up if you're meditating regularly. But it's not causal. And then there's the further trap, because if you're holding on to the belief that meditation will give me enlightenment, I'm trying to get somewhere with meditation. Now you've got a purpose, and you're trying to do something with meditation, and you are actually getting in your own way. Because the me that is trying to get somewhere, the me that's trying to achieve through meditation, is exactly the me that enlightenment sees through. Enlightenment is a shattering of this illusion of me. And so this me that's trying to get somewhere, trying to achieve through enlightenment, is being reinforced through its own effort. And then it's getting frustrated, going, well, I haven't gotten it yet. Why is that? Basically, it falls into the seeker's trap. Because when you're in the whole idea of seeking, if you're seeking enlightenment, this me that's trying to get there, this me that's trying to get this thing, that is what is exactly also reinforcing the illusion that there's a me in the first place. The illusion of me is reinforced by a me trying to get somewhere. And so in this seeking, you are subtly reinforcing the illusion that you're trying to escape from. It is actually why one of the last obstacles, or one of the last things that drop away often, is seeking. You give up seeking because at some point you realize you can't get there. The you that is trying is actually just reinforcing the illusion. And so you kind of give up the seeking. Not that you have to give up all practices, but what you're doing is you're giving up the purpose behind all practices. So if you're going to give up the seeking, so you're not fueling this me by trying to get somewhere, but you still want to meditate because it's easier to wake up. And also there's other benefits of meditation just in life. Stress, peace of mind, kind of mellowing yourself, things like that. But if you meditate, you would do it without a purpose. I'm meditating. And I would say meditation is essentially being still, silent, fully aware, not thinking. That's kind of what meditation is, essentially. And so if someone was to ask me, well, why do you meditate? Basically, why are you being still, silent, without thought, not thinking? I would say, in order to be still, silent, fully aware, not thinking. The means and the end is the same thing. I am doing it for its own sake. And in that way, meditation actually becomes more powerful and potentially more transformative, because you no longer have the seeking me behind it. And so that's, I would say, another reason why to give up the idea that meditation will cause enlightenment is, one, you fall into the seeker's trap, thus reinforcing the me you're trying to see through. And two, meditation is not causal anyway in terms of enlightenment. Meditation does not cause enlightenment. And so, those are basically the two primary reasons to give that up. And it's kind of a shock for some people, because I don't know, there's so many people that want to believe that they can cause enlightenment and meditation is the way. I mean, you practically hear that, maybe not in so many words, but kind of reading between the lines. Kind of the implication is you need to meditate a whole lot to wake up. You need to meditate a whole lot for enlightenment. That's not true, though. That's kind of like, again, if you're trying to fall asleep at night, someone saying you got to be in a dark room a whole lot for a long time in order to fall asleep. Well, some people, yeah. My dad has a horrible time falling asleep at night. He'll toss and turn for hours before he falls asleep. However, me on the other hand, my wife is jealous. She goes, as soon as your head hits the pillow, you seem to be out within 5 minutes. It's the same dark room, and whether you're in a dark room for a long time or a short time really doesn't matter in terms of falling asleep, because the dark room does not cause sleep. It is simply more conducive. It helps falling asleep. And to repeat once again, the same thing applies to meditation. Meditating a long time will not cause enlightenment. It's simply more conducive. So however long or short you're meditating doesn't particularly matter. It's just more conducive to awakening, to enlightenment. And because it's not causal, I will end this by saying the other fallacy is when people say, how long did it take you to wake up, or how long did it take you for enlightenment? Some people will say, well, I've meditated 20 years. That's actually a inaccurate response, because that's implying that meditating caused the enlightenment and that you had to do 20 years of this effort for enlightenment. And that isn't how it works. Whether you've meditated 20 years or 2 minutes, if enlightenment happens, it's just as instantaneous as the other. The falling asleep is kind of an instantaneous thing. The falling asleep of my dad after 2 hours of sitting in the dark, or me after 5 minutes sitting in the dark, takes the same amount of time. The falling asleep portion is the same amount of time. Now, my wife also has a hard time falling asleep, and I know for a fact, because she tells me that she thinks a lot. And so she's not falling asleep when she's sitting in the dark. She's thinking a lot about her day, different things, what she's got to do. So she's not falling asleep. And so if she sits and turns and tosses for an hour in the dark and then falls asleep, you can't say, it took me an hour to fall asleep. I mean, in terms of as if it was a process, an hour-long process to fall asleep. No, the falling asleep was just as instantaneous as it was for me. It took me less than 5 minutes, took her an hour. The only difference was she wasted an hour thinking before falling asleep. And so, I mean, these are just, there's so many kind of misunderstandings and illusions piled on each other. Because, like I said, if you have this idea that's causal, then you have this idea of, well, it took this long to make this happen, and there's a whole other set of misunderstandings. But that's kind of the gist of what I want to talk about today, of kind of why meditation will not lead to enlightenment, or won't lead to enlightenment. If you got any questions, comments, please post below. And until next time, thank you much.